I'm Bob Harvey, President of Surf Lifesaving New Zealand. I always felt that there was a great book to be written about surf lifesaving. And when Surf Lifesaving became 100 years old, I thought it was a great time to bring together the history of surf lifesaving and also, in a way, the history of beaches in New Zealand. Because after all, New Zealand is a country of beaches. And on those beaches, every summer, between the flags, thousands of lifeguards save New Zealanders the grief of drowning and their families. And we've been doing that for 100 years. So the idea came together with a group of us to write the history of surf lifesaving in the words of surf lifesavers, from letters, from photographs, the great history of this country and the great summers for 100 years since 1910 have been told in the words of lifesavers. Men and women of all kinds of jobs and lifestyles came together as equals on the beach. In surf lifesaving, there's no difference between who you are. You could be a doctor, you could be a prime minister, I guess. But if you're a lifeguard, you are there to save life. And the story of lifesaving is the story really of New Zealand society. Changing, going to 2 world wars, the Great Depression. There was nothing that they wouldn't do or wouldn't try. And so this book is a cultural history, a social history, and it's a sports history. There's no other organisation other than Surf Lifesaving, I believe, that has a great and wonderful voluntary service as well as a fantastic competitive lifestyle, whether it be surf boats, surf races. We have had some of the great athletes in New Zealand in surf, some of the greatest swimmers in New Zealand in surf. So this is their story, and it's a story of triumph and it's a story of tragedy. The terrible shark attacks in Dunedin, the sinking of the Wahine, and there they are pulling bodies and victims out of the water in surf boats and in the first inflatables. And it's a history of great change using helicopters in surf lifesaving. Breakthrough, the first in the world to do that. And then, of course, using helicopters to do a whole lot more rescue work. We did it first. And then, of course, after the war, we brought women into surf lifesaving, which I think was a triumph of intelligence. And women lifesavers have become equal with men throughout this country. And then the arrival of the nippers. Some clubs have 500, 600, 900 nippers. These are between 5 and 8. These are our future. So this book, it's a big book, 410 pages. It's a large book because it needed to tell great stories about great people. That's what Between the Flags is about. It's a cultural, social, and it's a fantastic read. So it's for you, and it's for the next 2 decades or 3 decades, understanding as we move into the 21st century and into our 2nd century, how a group of people sat on a small beach in Sumner and in Lau Bay and said, we're doing something for other people, and we've never stopped doing that. To bring together such a large book, such as 100 Years Between the Flag, I needed a huge input. I had a great researcher and 2 fantastic colleagues. Together, we crafted this wonderful history of surf lifesaving. We asked about 300 people to give us their memoirs, to tell us about their most exciting rescue or a story from their club, or tell us about the club. And so we were pursuing not only the social history of surf lifesaving and the clubs, but the personal stories of rescues. The wealth of stories in this book are the history of saving life in the water, on the coast, in surf, the history of how we have done it. So people contributed their best story, their best memory, or their club's best rescue. The stories are horrific, some of them, because people simply can't be saved, and some can. Some people are pulled back after 2 hours in the surf. Others are saved at the shoreline. I have to say the history of surf lifesaving is a story of triumph, but it's also a story of tragedy. Many people drowned. In fact, up to about 1897, the New Zealand death was drowning. The English Sunday Times referred to the New Zealand death as drownings. New Zealanders drowned in their thousands. We drowned in rivers and streams, of course, off wharves. New Zealand simply didn't and couldn't swim like the rest of the English world. We feared water. But then in the early part of the last century, people started to what was called bathe. They went into the water in the morning, often in segregated beaches, men from 6 to 8 and women from 8 to 10. And they bathed. The more venturous started to swim. And that's when it became necessary to do something to protect the lives of swimmers. Well, it was us. Surf lifesaving, which had started in Australia on the beaches of Bondi, came to the beaches of Christchurch. And this was a time when voluntary work was light on the ground. People just didn't volunteer to do things. They worked 6 days a week. Young men had much to do, and it wasn't sitting on beaches and protecting the lives of people that may be in danger. But we did. And working closely with the Royal Lifesaving Society, which was really basically an English organisation to protect lives in rivers, and practiced always in swimming pools, carrying bricks to the side, pretending they were people, and giving them medals for doing that. We were more bolder. We moved our patrols up and down the beaches. We started to understand rips and currents. New Zealand waters are very treacherous. And we decided that we were an organisation to be applauded and awarded. We created our own organisation. Surf Lifesaving grew, and so did the techniques. We took the Australian belt and reel, which was very successful, but it also had dangers. If the line became tangled in rocks or logs, the people on the beach simply pulled the beltman under and he drowned. So it wasn't until the 40s that we found a way. The belt was pulled in a pin and came apart. It's called the Ross safety belt. And it transformed lives, if you like, or the saving of life. In other words, the danger of drowning the beltman and the patient was gone. In the 1960s, we changed everything. We moved to fins and tubes and got free of the reel and line. We looked at other ways of getting people quicker to safety. And the inflatable, the fast, quick Arancia seemed to us to be, well, something with potential. And away we went. We experimented with the blow-up rubber ducky. It was faster, quicker than anything we could have imagined in the surf. It was better than the helicopter and, of course, less expensive. So away we went with what would transform surf lifesaving, the IRB, the Inshore Rescue Boat or Craft. Now we can save people in 3 minutes, which would often take us 20, 30, maybe 40 minutes. As long as they could stay afloat, we would try and get them, sometimes joining the old lines together to reach them. But with the inshore rescue craft, we could get there quickly in the biggest surf, pick them up and race them back to shore. At the same time, we were developing a culture second to none, a very clean culture, a very healthy culture for young people to join the voluntary movement. It was widely applauded. Governments thought we were great. Why wouldn't they? We saved a lot of people's lives, but we also transformed young people's lives from what possibly could be crime, misadventure, that kind of thing. So we did a great job for New Zealand. These are the stories that we've pulled together in this, what I call a remarkable book. A book that is multi-layered. There's great photographs, fantastic photographs. We had a fantastic researcher combing the museums and libraries, glass plates. We had probably 5,000 photographs to look at and choose some of the great photographs of New Zealand beaches in 100 years. This book isn't just about life-saving. It's about how people behaved, how they first decided that suntan was healthy and sexy. I have to tell you, Surf Life Saving is a very, very sexy organisation. The hero, the male hero, was the great icon of Australia, marching, strutting the golden sands of Australia. He became quintessential Australian hero. Tanned, beautiful, all that kind of stuff. Great female magnet. And we picked that up. And so lifesavers became not only heroic, they became heroes of the beach. And they only did good deeds. The bronzed Superman, if you like, in Speedos. So we were aware that we have a great image which we've lived up to. Now with women who are equally, in my mind, the heroes of the surf and equally as fantastic at saving life, and they sure do look good too. We've got a wonderful organisation. And here is our story. So if you want a book to really enjoy how New Zealanders are on the beaches every summer, this is the great summer read. When I was putting this book together, I was fascinated by who were the people in the glass plates that I was looking at, the early photographs. When I looked at them, they were, of course, often young men, but I wondered what they'd done and how they'd come to the beach. Who had invited them to come and sit on the beach on a Saturday and Sunday in New Brighton or Lyall Bay or in New Plymouth or Napier or in Auckland in the 1930s when surf lifesaving started. Who were these young men and women? What jobs had they had? By their muscles, and not too many people had muscles in those days, we thought, and still do, that they had worked in the heavy industries. Maybe they were blacksmiths, maybe they worked in engineering, they worked with heavy machineries. And in the country, they worked on the land. No one is overweight. Everyone is very fit. But did they have office jobs? Clearly some did. They must have all been good swimmers. They would have all been trained swimmers, pool swimmers. And they would have done their calisthenics as everyone did in those days. In the early part of the last century, every young man had a set of barbells or Indian clubs. The magazines and newspapers were full of healthy exercises for young men. It kept their mind off other things. And here they are at the beach. These are the lost people in not surf lifesaving, but in New Zealand's history. We only have their names. And this book brings together their magnificent images. To tell a story as rich as surf lifesaving, you have to tell the story of beach behaviour, how people first came to the beaches, paraded on Saturday and Sunday with their family, with big hats and suits, even in the hottest weather, and then starting to take their clothes off. From neck to knee was the way. Councils decided by tape measures how togs or costumes could come down. Did they go down past the knee? Oh, you bet your life they did. And then they started to rise. And of course, with the change of costume came the freedom, the rise of suntan and golden bodies, all of that came together. We decided that this book would be rich in photographs. And so when people started to take their cameras to the beach, we wanted to see what they photographed. They photographed the history of this country when they weren't working. Occupations made the working class of New Zealand slave for 6 and often 7 days. No one had time off. But when they did in summer, they promenaded and went to the beach to bathe. Well, the photographs are just simply astonishing. They record who we were and what we did. And when we competed, we were able to take photographs and keep those in our archives of the most extraordinary moments. The moments when people were saved from death, saved, brought to shore, or just swam. These are the stories in this book. Here, shark kills man at St Kilda, one of 2 shark attacks, a tragic end to a belt race from the beach. I knew these people. I knew the club captain. The team came soon after to march at the national championships with black armbands, their leader taken by a white pointer. Waihini, we were first out there with our surf boats and our inflatables to pull people. The Waihini toll, that grim night that followed the sinking of Waihini. Surf lifesaving were there. This is the stories of these rescues. This is the story of our people. And this is the story that I think is for everyone to read and to enjoy. It's a great read. It's a great surf book, but it's also a great book about New Zealanders at play.